Going to be one of those days, pal, because your partner got a little bit of a tweeting mood yesterday, and these things happen. And then they, of course, follow us to the show, and then we got to roll up the sleeves and we got to battle. So I tweeted this yesterday, right? Many people think, and of course I put in parentheses, even without DeGrom, that the Mets have the best rotation, the bigs. That's a general consensus, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that DeGrom is a big part of why preseason that they were classified, or at least thought of, as the number one rotation in Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm. Right now, they don't even have the best starting staff in New York City. they don't. The Yankees starting staff is better right now.
I don't know if I'm laughing because I agree with you, or I'm laughing because I think it's asinine for you to assert that. I really do.
Why?
Because, look, I love Nestor. Nestor's one of my favorite players ever, I think, because of
so you're going to gas him up, and then you're going to tell us why this is all mirage.
Not at all.
Why he's not that good.
He's done it for a minute.
Okay.
He's filling up his cup of coffee for the second time.
Same with McGill. He's done it for a minute.
I agree. Look, I love Nestor Quinn. He had the no-hitter going all the way into the eighth inning. It was awesome yesterday. And it's crazy because we come in and I say, God, Nestor looks unhittable. And I hate to say that because that makes him sound like he's an ace and he's got this elite stuff.
He's like he's Randy Johnson.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
he's throwing 98. But the different slot, the arm slots, and how he comes down sometimes, and he just confuses the hell out of batters.
Yes, he does.
It's probably because it's the Texas Rangers as well. But still,
he's been doing it really going back to a year ago.
I agree, but yesterday he looked particularly dominant. Like he's never gone 7 1/3. He went to 7 1/3 yesterday because it was the Rangers. They couldn't get any hits on him until a week.
Well, until Evan Roberts was mushing his way around the WFAN newsroom.
That's right.
And we'll get to you a little later in the show there, Roberts, mush.
So I hear what you're saying because of Nestor Cortez,
and Dove's a mush, too.
42 strikeouts already, better than Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole had a tough start, but Garrett Cole's getting back on track. You could say Luis Severino was going to be that guy, but there's no way you can convince me that with those guys pitching the way that they are, again, there's questions with Sevy because of his injury history. We'll see if he lasts the whole season. Nestor hasn't done this in his career yet, whereas Max Scherzer on the Mets side has 3 Cy Youngs. He's been in the top 5 for the last 5 years, 2020 excluded. Jacob DeGrom, when he does come back, Jacob DeGrom. What did I say? Did I say Jacob?
No, I'm just saying who.
Jacob DeGrom. Who is in a...
DeGrom. Gotcha.
Who will be a mid-season addition to this Mets squad and lift them to greater heights that they already aren't on right now. And then you throw in Tyler McGill, who's not... hasn't.
I like McGill.
Doesn't have a ton of history.
No, McGill's good. I like him.
Pitching amazing.
I like
Carrasco is back to the Carrasco
we know the names
that we've seen.
Why
in
am
Cleveland.
I nuts though?
There's no way that you can convince me with two perennial Cy Young five Cy Young candidates that the Mets have a weaker staff.
Okay, no, I got you. So here's what you're doing. And again, you're falling into the trick that sometimes I fall into.
Which is?
You are living in the past, my man.
I'm not living in the past.
I'm going to tell you exactly what you are in your car right now, and you hear a song that brings you back to a certain time in your life. You're like, oh, I remember that, right? Now, that past may have been 2 or 3 weeks ago. Now, let's be fair about this. I am not saying that it's not close. It obviously is. I'm not saying that once, and hopefully DeGrom does come back, it doesn't change radically in favor of the Mets, all right? And 3 weeks ago, it was the Mets. 2 weeks ago, the answer was the Mets. As of this morning, it is the New York Yankees. And I'll tell you why.
Because of Nestor?
Well, first of all, you hit me with the Cy Youngs for sure. Great. But again, living in the past. One thing that I can't stand.
He was top 3 last year.
That was the past.
Okay, go ahead.
One thing that I can't stand, and I'm going to call out my Yankee brethren on this, I can't stand this, when the Yankee fan reaches for we got 27 world championships.
Yeah.
Been a long time.
By the way, you do that a lot.
Me?
I'm just kidding.
I know that you're kidding because that bothers. I don't do that. And to me, that is the low-hanging fruit. It's lazy. And at this point, it's meaningless, right? Because everything that we talk about on this show, unless we're actually going through history, which sometimes is fun, but pertaining to this season right now pertains to today. And maybe even more importantly, tomorrow. Now, Scherzer, absolute beast. Garrett Cole, last 3 starts, as good, if not better. Who started the American League All-Star game if the All-Star game was tonight? It's Cortez.
Yeah, you're right.
So
if the season ended today, Nestor Cortez probably wins the Cy Young, which, as crazy as that sounds, is probably justified for how well he's pitched to start the season.
No doubt. As good as Carrasco has been in certain spots this year, Jordan Montgomery has an ERA below 3. And Walker is not good, and Jamison Tyone is, who also has a sub-3 ERA. So you could tweet away, you could do your little Met rage, and your little whatever. These are just facts. These are numbers that are substantiated by things you can look up. This is not rhetoric. This is not a hot take. This is not me trying to mess with the senses and try to stir up This is a reaction to where we are right now. Without Jacob deGrom, the New York Yankees pitching staff is better than the New York Mets.
Yeah, well, without Jacob deGrom, that's a big deal.
But that's where we're living.
It is where we're living, but I think in time,
he hasn't pitched since July.
See, here's what I rely on, and I this is what I thought of when I was a player. It's what I think of now as an analyst. When I look at a team, I got to look at someone not for what they're currently doing, but what they're going to do in the future, or more importantly, what I can count on them doing in the future. You can count on Max Scherzer being one of the elite pitchers in Major League Baseball from now until the end of this season. Unless something, I'm not going to jinx and say injury, but unless there's an injury, we're putting injuries aside.
Yep.
When Jacob deGrom comes back, he is going to be one
How do we know he's coming back? You can't just insert that with such confidence.
But he is.
The guy hasn't pitched since July.
I understand that.
Okay.
But at some point, Jacob deGrom will pitch for the New York
I
Mets.
really hope so, because he's an all-time great based on the numbers.
If and when he does, he's going to make this rotation back to where it was.
Well, then the conversation's over. Then it's big advantage Mets.
Exactly right.
But I'm talking about right now, the middle of May.
So you don't think because
he's nowhere near coming back.
Tylor Megill has been pitching great.
Very, very. I like Tylor Megill.
Carlos Carrasco is pitching like he did in Cleveland.
He's sporadically. His ERA's almost 3.5, dude. Let's not overstate it.
Okay, because
he's been good.
He had a horrible outing a couple of, when was it, 3 or 4 starts ago.
Yeah.
But he still gave them distance. So,
I understand. He's good.
And we know that guys are going to get hit around every now and then. Garrett Cole got hit around.
Yes, he did.
Early in the
he got walked
season.
around, really. Big difference.
Yeah, he couldn't find the strike zone.
He couldn't find a strike zone. Well, Vlad tattooed him. But that Tigers game, he couldn't throw strikes.
That's right.
It was cold.
So my point is, I know Garrett Cole is great, and I know what we expect of him. But until we see it for, 3 or 4 weeks, maybe a month, are we sure that Garrett Cole is going to be that guy all season long? Whereas I know
not entirely.
Max Scherzer is going to be that way all season long.
That's a fair point. I'm not entirely sure. I'm still, and I should have said this as well, because I need to be fully fair to the Mets. The Yankees staff, their starting staff, what they've gone against in terms of opposing offenses is far inferior to what the Mets have. I get that.
There's no doubt about it.
There's definitely context here, but I guess this is an elevation of Cortez. And let me frame it this way. If Cortez, now he's not going to have a 1.4. He's not going to be Sandy Koufax.
I mean, he might.
I mean, it was probably more like a modern Jimmy Key in terms of style and all that stuff. But if Cortez is 85% of what he's been so far this season, okay, and Garrett Cole gets back to being Garrett Cole, I don't really know how you argue this.
Yeah,
unless deGrom comes back and he's deGrom.
That's right. So it's a big question mark with deGrom. Huge question mark with deGrom, to be honest with you. But also, we got to see this consistency with Garrett Cole for the rest of this year. And I think he's stabilizing, but still, you got to see it. At the end of the day, as an athlete, you have to prove it every single time. Right? Every game on a Sunday for me, you had to prove it. Every outing, every 5 days for a Major League Baseball pitcher, you have to prove it. So that's what we're talking about. For guys that haven't done it historically, like Nestor Cortez or even Tylor Megill on the other side, you got to prove it every single time. Because as soon as you get knocked around that one time, as soon as you have that horrible outing, that expectation falls back to earth really quickly.
Because you don't have that base
you don't have history. I got 3 Cy Youngs. I've been top 5 for the last 5 years.
Although now you can start to say, if that happens to Scherzer, not that I think it will, you can start to say, well, is age creeping in as he kind of starts knocking on the door of 40?
It's there. I just can't see
Scherzer's
his
a
age.
beast.
I don't
love
see his
Scherzer.
age yet.
Okay.
Certain guys you start to see age. I don't see it yet.
No, neither do I. How about this before we get to these phones? 60 years of Mets baseball, which means 60 years of Mets and Yankee baseball. And this is the first time ever that each team got to 20 wins first in their respective leagues.
Maybe
Good
you weren't
stuff.
premature with your Subway Series.
Hey, listen, 877-337-6666, Tiki and Tierney inside the Town Fair Tire Studio. Our friends at Town Fair remind you that you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. All right, Eric, first up, Clifton on the fan, Tiki and Tierney. What's up, Eric?
BT, I told Hoff I got to get something of what you're picking up at the dispensaries in New York City. I mean, first of all, you talk about context. For context, okay, so the Yankees have allowed 2.68 runs per game. The Mets have allowed 3.33 runs per game. That's on the abstract. But have you looked at the level of competition that the Yankees have played in comparison to the Mets? You guys have beat up on the literal bottom feeders of the major leagues. Baltimore, Clifton. I mean, some of these payrolls are. Most of them are bottom 7, and the Mets have beaten up on the Giants.
Giants aren't that good. Giants aren't that good. They're not.
But they're supposed to be.
But they're not.
I think that's the point.
Well, I mean, I was supposed to, whatever. I'm not.
It's just, I love listening to you guys. And listen, the Yankees pitching staff has been a gem. And
all right,
I am a Mets
Eric,
fan,
let's do this. Eric, let's do this.
competition is
Eric, hold on. Let's do this. And you call a lot. I think you're a perfect person to do this with. You ready? Right as of this morning. And don't elaborate. Just give me your answer. Max Scherzer or Garrett Cole right now?
Scherzer.
I agree. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Bassett or Cortez?
Bassett.
You're wrong. It's Cortez. McGill or Severino?
I got to see if Severino can stay healthy.
Okay.
But if he could, I probably would give him the nod.
Montgomery or Carrasco?
Carrasco.
Based on what? The numbers say Jordan. Based on what?
I will say this to you, though. You are 100% accurate on one thing. DeGrom, he can't be counted on. And I agree with you on that. And it is a fool's game to say something like, well, we don't need him back. Of course we do.
Jameson, Tyone, or Walker?
Eric, that was expert. That was expert answering the question you want to answer, not the one that was asked.
How about answering this one? Because you're not going to want to answer it the way you have to. Tyone or Walker?
It's not going to be Walker because I
Okay, so it's Tyone is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So minimally, it's 60% in favor of the Yankees rotation.
Thanks, Eric.
Do you let me ask you guys
exercise.
a question. I love Eric, too. Let me ask you guys a question. Do you think that I'm going to get on the air today and make a statement like I made and not really be able to back it up?
No, you
do
can back it up.
Know?
But
now, you might not love my style, but you need to know what I'm made of.
But I know
this is what I do.
The style that you're talking about is based on what we're seeing right now.
Exactly.
Which is what your opinion is based on.
Which I prefaced it with that.
But
exactly.
when you say the Yankees have a better staff than the Mets, it encompasses more than just right now. It encompasses what obviously has happened, but what is going to happen going forward.
It's one way to look at it.
And when you look at the level of competition, because context matters, right? You beat up on the Little Sisters of the Poor, it's easy to look great. But when you start to beat some of those teams payroll-wise and expectation-wise that we're supposed to be good, like the Mets have done, and have yet to lose a series, then you got to give them credit. You have to.
I do give the Mets credit all the time. I think the Mets are a really, really fundamentally sound, exciting, good, very good baseball team. That is on the short list to get to the World Series. This is not about denigrating the Mets. This, to me, is about, I think, shining a spotlight on something that nobody seems to see.
No, but you know
people still look at the Yankees and associate them, even though they haven't hit the last couple, bombers, this, that.
Yeah.
Right now, the Yankees rotation, again, assuming that Cortez is going to keep this up, the Yankees rotation right now, not to mention their entire staff, is their absolute strength.
Yeah, but you know what this sounds
Not
like?
hitting.
But you know what this sounds like to a non-Yankee fan?
Well, it sounds like a Yankee homer getting on the air saying that the Yankees staff is better.
It sounds like this to a non-Yankee fan and to a Mets fan. All right, Mets, you're doing amazing, but stay in your hole. That's what it sounds like.
Well, I'm not saying that at all.
I know, but that's what it sounds like.
Well, I mean, listen, if people interpret it that way, I don't know what to say. I can't help them. I'll certainly not say, I'm not telling the Met fan to get in their hole. Met fan's good. Mets are good. Pat's in Manhattan on the fan, Tiki and Tierney. Patty, what's happening?
Yes, let me get you off speaker. Brandon, you're right on target. You mentioned pitching staff. You add the Yankees bullpen compared to the Mets.
Well, that's not even close.
It's not even close.
No, that's not even fair. We wouldn't waste anybody's time with that. No, we wouldn't waste anybody's time.
Let me bring this out. And David Cohn has made this point, and this is very true in baseball, especially in this day and age. You need a multitude of starters a season because injuries always happen.
Yep.
The Yankees have Michael King that is right there. Their bullpen is deep enough where they could pull him out if they want to stretch him out. They also have a kid, Clark Schmidt, who's got great stuff, who has all the potential in the world. And David Cohn's made this point. The Yankee pitching staff, he said they have 20 arms, including what they have in the minors, plus what they already have on their roster. So it's very deep. So they are injury-prone proof because they're so deep. It's no question. And for all year, everyone talks about, the Yankees need a pitcher. The Yankees, no, they decided to stick with the guys that they had, and I'm glad they did.
Yeah, I mean, They got a little lucky because Nestor is turning out to be amazing, and Louis is healthy. Like, we didn't know what Louis – I mean, let's not forget, Luis Severino had a spring training start. The next day, he basically said, my shoulder's hurting.
Yes.
There could be some issue.
Yes.
So I don't know how you were coming into this season until you actually saw how he started to pitch, saying Luis Severino is going to be Luis Severino. There's no way you could have said that unless it was blind faith. The evidence didn't prove that was the case.
Well, but isn't the blind faith that Met fans and even you conjure up for DeGrom at this point? That is blind faith medically.
Without a doubt.
That is completely blind.
But you know that when he does get healthy, if and when he does get healthy, he's going to be elite.
The
last 5 years have been stupid for Jacob DeGrom, and we all know that. But he is getting a little bit older, and he's got an injury-prone frame and delivery.
I mean, he hasn't pitched since July.
I know.
It's crazy.
But even without him, the Mets have treaded water. Actually, they're
more than that. They're leading the race, dude.
They're surfing on the top of the water.
They're leading the race.
Jacob DeGrom.
They're leading the race. They've lapped treading water. I'll use the pool analogy. Right now, they're lapping everybody in the NL East.
Right.
I mean, they're very good
without one of their aces.
No
which
doubt.
is amazing.
But there's no guarantee that he's going to come back the same. And I hope he does. And I don't even know when he's coming back. And listen, here's the thing too. Any staff, if you're comparing staffs, as long as the one staff that's being compared doesn't have like an anchor bringing it down, like a very visible deficient arm, how can anybody? Taijuan Walker is somebody that you are incorporating into this conversation as somebody who gives the Mets a definitive edge over the Yankees. Have you seen Walker pitch?
Yeah, I have.
I mean, that's not the guy you want to hang a hat on, Taijuan Walker. He's just not. 877-337-6666. Now, doesn't mean he's not capable of a little run. Doesn't mean that things can't flip for Tyone or Montgomery or Cortez. But right now, I mean, listen, Met fans, I'm sorry. Yankee staff, Yankee starting staff. It's better.